Go. And welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Challenge podcast, talking about episode 7 of All Stars 5 Rivals. We are your hosts. My name is Brett Parnell.
And I'm TT Fernandez.
TT, what's your thoughts of this episode? And when after that, we'll be ready to get into it.
Yeah, overall, I really liked a lot of the drama that we saw. I feel
Yeah,
like we have All Stars, you kind of think of people are gonna be more messy and there's gonna be a lot of drama, and I just really liked hearing everything that happened. Um, but yeah, what did you think?
completely agreed. Um, Especially, drama is going to happen when you have that one-off episode that Veronica gets a lot of power. But it definitely made for a twist on the season that we probably never saw coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. But just to start off, the what happened was we come back from Big T and Corey's elimination. What did you think about how the house was and stuff?
Um, it's definitely, I would say, pretty divisive at this point. You have people like Melissa who say we're really close to Big T. You also have other people in this house, though, that would see that team especially as just being like not representative of an All Stars season, and therefore probably glad they're gone. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out, where we're not a new era season, we're not a traditional All Star season, we're kind of somewhere in between, just to get what is turning out to be a pretty messy cast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you really hit the nail on the head with the non-all-star considered cast members. I mean, we've talked about it personally, and we don't really care that
Yeah,
much about those things,
they
but
haven't showed it, but I'm sure there's been some people on this cast that are just like, what are some of these people doing in this season? And
yeah.
obviously not being edited into the show because that would make production look bad to a certain element of the fan base.
Yeah, and I also think it's it's not just that they're new, what the people there are thinking. It's not just oh, these people don't deserve to be an all-star or whatever. I think they're thinking more of these people are competing on the flagship, and they're obviously all-stars is a little bit different with the competitions, even though we've seen a lot of similar missions. So I think that in a way it just made them a bigger threat because they have been going on a lot of seasons recently.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into the episode, also too, we saw another element, but quick appearance from Michelle in this episode. So that
Yeah,
was always nice. First, last 2 weeks ago, we get Michelle talking about her relationship on the phone with Devin. This week, we get Michelle fighting with Amanda in a cameo.
yeah, I thought that was pretty I liked seeing that. And it was regarding to kind of Amber and Fessy's dynamic
Yeah,
in this game, and how Fessy talks about how he has a committed girlfriend with two dogs now, and he's no longer Messy Fessy or whatever.
yeah.
Which I guess we have pretty much seen ever since USA 2, I would say.
I was, I probably missed it, but that kind of took me by surprise. I did not know that Fessy kind of changed the way he was living.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like his gameplay is messy fessy,
Yeah,
but I guess he's just not hooking up with
no,
every girl in the house anymore.
let
But
alone every girl that comes to Challenge Mania. As we saw when he got in a fight with Amanda once.
that's crazy. But we get Ashley and Dario kind of wondering how they ended up being the house vote. Because they really were not expecting that last week and were taken by surprise that they ended up going into the elimination. What did you think about that?
Yeah, this was a great scene. It certainly was a surprise for them. It wasn't a surprise for us seeing that they were getting plotted against and that they are such a strong team. But what I really liked out of this aspect in this part of the show is that we see Dario and Ashley talking about how now they need to know how to play their own game and not necessarily worry about sending home teams that might be as if those teams are coming in the way of them actually winning, and that they're just here to become the champion of the season.
Yeah, and I think that Dario and Ashley are a really strong team. So like you said, it's they're not kind of sitting there and being upset about it. They're just kind of thinking of like, okay, what can we do to benefit our game? And like if that means we have to go into an elimination, let's try to make a big move while doing so.
Yeah, absolutely. So then I had to laugh because we get into this complete confusion over who they is and who's causing the whole issue between Frank being suspected, but it's actually Veronica and Katie. I had a comment in my notes of, are we watching The Traitors again, or is this the challenge? Because it seems like they're
Yeah.
just trying to figure out who's plotting against the entire cast.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that comparison, but yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like they is kind of a mix of people because
Yeah,
we saw like it was Veronica and Katie that caused a lot of the confusion last week. But even on this episode at the end, we see Frank saying, I'm they,
yeah.
I'm done. But then we also know that Shane is causing a lot of confusion. So I feel like they is a group of like a bunch of people that are just causing chaos and it's not like a singular person.
Which might almost become a completely new alliance to counter the one we talked about in our last episode.
Yeah, we did see the weak alliance. I don't know what else to call it. Just kind of led by Veronica and Katie trying to get out the people that are stronger than them,
Yeah.
which surprise, I think it's pretty much the whole house. Um, the last thing I had before the daily was just that Shane and Davon are kind of on opposite sides of the house, and we talked a little bit about this last week. And I think that there's going to be a conflict that's brewing because we've heard about this a couple times. We haven't seen much happen, but Shane is more on Veronica's side, and they want to take out the strong teams, and then Davon is on the strong team side, and she's working with Nani, Turbo, Fessy, and Amber. Um, so yeah, I wonder how that's gonna affect things.
Yeah, absolutely. Should be fascinating to find out in the next couple of episodes. All right, so moving on to the daily, what was your thoughts of this challenge?
So the challenge was called Blow Your Mind, and they had to kind of memorize time zones and different clocks. And then they had to, which I thought was interesting that they had the partners each memorize one side,
Yeah,
and then one of the partners had to detonate it without like getting the okay from the other partner. So
yeah,
that's kind of made it tricky. And then they had to use that to solve a puzzle of time zones,
yeah.
which I mean, I don't think I would do good in this. I can barely read an analog clock, let
Fair.
alone memorize times. So,
I know Davon makes a comment about Shane for his job calls people in other time zones across the US, so that at least helped them a bit. In my job, I call people in literally every continent. So I'm like, this would be amazing for me. I don't even think I probably would just detonate it and hurry up and be like, okay, LA is Pacific time. From there, I can move to Denver 1 hour. I can move to Toronto 2 more hours. I can move to Buenos Aires 1 more hour. I can move to London 3 more hours from that. And basically just kind of work your way through major cities. I personally think that this is a bit of a memory challenge, but as TJ says, once you've pressed the detonator, your answer key is gone. So it's not like you can run back and forth and make it a stamina challenge. This is really a geography challenge.
yeah, and I think another thing that was interesting is like people probably thought that the puzzle was just gonna be like, did you memorize this correctly or
Yeah,
maybe a little bit more, but like Veronica kind of realizes that the whole point of the puzzle is to figure out the difference between the LA time zone and the other cities on the board.
yeah.
So like
Once you
I
have one that's constant and that you know the answer for, if you know the geography of the world, you can sort out all of the other ones.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also being able to recognize that it is the difference between LA and the other ones
Yeah.
that solves the puzzle. Because I feel like I would have never gotten that if I was doing that. I would be extremely confused what they wanted us to do.
I think the reason they were able to figure that out is that Los Angeles's box didn't start on midnight, whereas all of the other ones did. LA, the answer was it wasn't correct. They had to fix it, but it was I think they had them at like 2 in the morning, but then the answer key started at 3 in the morning. So you just knew, okay, match it up with the correct answer, and then do all the other ones in relation to that.
Yeah, I could have never done that.
Fair.
But
I had to laugh at the beginning of this though when um Melissa, sorry, Nicole says that not unfortunately it's not a strength challenge and not everybody has memory and smarts in addition to good looks. And then Melissa, who I'm sure we all know has hooked up with Nicole quite a few times, says you have neither as her rival. That was just hilarious.
yeah, that was really funny. And I think it's funny that they have hooked up.
Yeah,
It'd be different if
both
they were,
on the show and also in real life.
yeah, because it would be different if like they were just rivals because of Nicole or Nicole and
Yeah,
Laurel and Melissa and whatever, but they're also rivals because they have not only hooked up with Laurel, but they've hooked up with each other.
exactly.
Um, I thought this was pretty interesting too, is Veronica kind of reminded us that the winner of this challenge was going to be the most accurate
Yeah,
in their puzzle and not the fastest team.
that's
Um,
smart.
and then that's when we saw
Because
like,
I think you only get to submit an answer one time.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not like the first team to get all of them, because otherwise you'll just see them moving 1 hour at a time.
Yeah. And I think like because when we heard TJ blow the horn, it was like after a lot of people have asked for a check.
Yep.
Um so yeah. But what else did you think?
Um, this is probably, and I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but this is probably like the one challenge that Veronica and Katie can actually win, and they have power in the game now.
Yeah, I mean this challenge really didn't require any like
Running.
running or like athleticism in general. So they were
And
able
shout
to
out to Katie and Veronica, who both come from Era 1. I think they're the only really old
uh,
school players.
Adam and Steve.
That's right. So two teams that are really from the original era of the show, but Katie and Veronica are one of them, and therefore they've probably done the challenge in all of these time zones, unlike some of the newer people who have only been on once or twice.
Yeah, and another thing that I found kind of interesting, and this is going a little bit off topic, but um Katie and Veronica want to get out the strong teams. Why is their allies Adam and Steve? Because we've seen Adam and Steve go into 4 eliminations now and win every single one of them.
Because they probably just want to get to the end because they know their chance of winning a final is effectively zero.
That's true. I guess they need one strong team on their side.
Yeah. And like I was just saying about Era 1, and you rightfully mentioned Adam and Steve, the those two teams probably are trustworthy of each other just because they're that old generation that none of the other players really have in common.
Yeah, and I feel like because I feel like in their brains they probably think that they can win. 'Cause I feel like that's how everybody is. You think
Yeah,
like, oh, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna win the whole thing type of thing.
exactly.
But I think they also kind of have a maybe like an understanding with Adam and Steve of like if it's not us, we want you guys to win.
Yeah,
So then that's the exception that they're gonna make with that.
especially with how close Steve was to winning last season.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
Um,
right. Anything else you want to add before we move after the daily?
I don't think so. No, I didn't know if you had anything else.
Nope. Where do you want to start?
I just had that Shane starts to get worried about Frank and Veronica getting close.
Yeah,
Veronica kind of, and this later on gets talked about more, but Shane and Veronica have known each other for 20 something years. They whatever, and we see Shane just kind of getting jealous of Frank and his friendship with Veronica in the
very
house.
true. Yeah, that was definitely the cause for some concern on all sides. I think that's so much the hard thing on this season is because it's rivals, you tend to be at odds with the people that your partner wants to work with based on past seasons and that they probably have relationships beyond your team.
Yeah. And I like didn't even think of it like that. Like it is a rival season, so it makes sense that these people are going to be on opposite sides of the house because they have fought before. They have
Yeah.
been against each other before. But we see Nani and Davon kind of start to plot against Sam and Frank to try to get them put in,
Yeah.
which
Which
I thought
is, I think,
yeah.
a good move for both of those teams, just seeing that Sam and Frank, one, now have a star, but two are probably the weakest team to have a star and the most likely that you're going to be able to beat if you end up going in.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends a lot on what type of elimination or
Yeah.
challenge it is because I think Frank can pick up a lot of the slack from Sam in the ways that like I feel like he can do a lot of things that she can't, and I feel like they can complement each other, but I agree with the teams that we have right now. I would probably want to go against them instead of the other ones.
Yeah, exactly. So Veronica and Katie want to put two strong teams head to head, almost the exact contrast to what we saw last time with Adam and Steve being in power and them working with the other stronger teams. So there's a bit of a problem though because they've won the House vote. Oh, sorry, the daily. Veronica and Katie can definitely throw a strong team into the elimination, but they need to now start getting votes in order to get another one in there.
Absolutely. And I think this is it's not just about like trying to get a strong team out, but if you throw in a strong team against a team that's not as like a weaker team, the chances of the stronger team coming back are a lot higher.
Right.
And that means that you're now gonna have a strong team like upset with you coming back into the house for
Yeah,
putting them into elimination. So yeah, I think it's more than just trying to get a strong team out, is making sure that you at least get one strong team out and not just make another like big enemy.
exactly.
But we see kind of Veronica kind of thinking something is up
Yeah,
because people aren't really talking to her, everybody's
which is
dancing.
really odd for a club scene. You normally see whoever is in power be the center of attention.
Yeah, and you normally see more of like conversations and like maybe you'll get a little bit of a montage of them having fun, but it's mostly like about them politicking with the winners. But yeah, she thinks something's up and is confused why people aren't trying to make conversations with her.
But politics is not the focus of this club night because Nicole needs 20 more drinks before the end of the day. I have an open bar coming up next week and I don't need 20 more drinks when I'm out.
Yeah, and especially Nicole, like she's very strong, but she is a very slim person.
Yeah,
I feel like that is going to be very dangerous for
that
her.
sounds it.
Um, but we kind of see Shane went up to Melissa and Nicole and said, "You guys are good. You're
Yeah.
not going to get put in." And then that's what makes Nicole kind of be like, "Oh, I can have fun now."
Yeah.
But she does face some confrontation, I guess, from Veronica when they get back in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. Veronica certainly, like we just said, wants to be in power, and she kind of sees everybody playing around her as and not focusing on her, and therefore thinks that something's up to totally change the game.
Yeah, she kind of she tells Nicole that if you and Melissa vote in Sam and Frank, I'm gonna consider putting you up.
Yeah.
And I think this was a very strong and powerful move by her because like we see later on, it ended up working to convince Nicole not to do that. And then she kind of like strong arms Nicole and tells her that she needs to show her loyalty to her during the House vote and says like you can't be doing things like going against my allies, which I thought
Yeah,
was
exactly. And speaking of the House vote, anything you want to talk about before we get there?
um I think just Frank kind of realizing that Shane is plotting against him was
True.
kind of interesting. And Shane is just kind of like in the background, whisper, 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 and then Frank is like, "What is going on? Where is all of this coming from?" And he actually realized that it came from Shane, you know?
Yeah. All right, so then we get to this vote, and like we say, Amber accuses Frank of being the they person that is making the game into chaos. We don't necessarily agree that he's the only one, but that certainly starts a conversation before this vote takes place. And normally we're used to getting these days in Vietnam where it's just boiling hot. In contrast, they are in the middle of a storm for this vote, which I mean, in some ways has got to be relaxing, but in some ways, being late in the middle of the season and voting in a thunderstorm in Southeast Asia is pretty symbolic, seeing that now is probably about the point of the game where players stop looking at the first half and start looking at the final.
Yeah, and I think it was also very like I guess I don't know how to say it, but like poetic that it was the
Yeah,
episode that had the most drama, the one that the weather was going crazy.
it sure was.
So I don't know. But basically, like we said, Amber confronted Frank, and then we see Shane in his confessional kind of laughing about it. Because again, Frank may be one of the theys, but so is Shane, and so
Yeah,
is Veronica, so is Katie. But we see this vote was more intense than what we've seen prior to this season. And it was between Fessy and Amber and Sam and Frank,
yeah, absolutely. And it comes
which
down.
came down to what Melissa
So go ahead.
no, I like it glitched a little bit, but yeah,
Yeah,
comes down to Melissa and Nicole.
yeah,
And
absolutely. Comes down to Melissa and Nicole, and Veronica gets her way with a team that is a big contender in this game. Amber, the champion of season 36 on the main show, and Fessy, who's been in finals before and was once a top college football player, um, are now going into the elimination, and Katie and Veronica get to send whoever they want against them, which we can bet will be another strong team.
yeah, I thought it was really impressive how Veronica was able to do this. And I think um because like I you can be kind of be like rubbed the wrong way, I guess, seeing her do that, but like as we both are very big fans of reality TV competition shows, you have to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of people will watch this and see a villain and kind of hate on them, but I think that like you can think it's annoying but also appreciate their gameplay.
yeah, absolutely.
Before the elimination, we see Frank kind of going off on Shane, being really upset.
I loved Shane's comment here that this is Frank that we got back in Battle of the Seasons.
Yeah, and he says he's like, I think this is the Frank from 12 years ago. But then he makes a comment that I wasn't really a big fan of. He says he wants the Frank that is single, messy, and unmarried. And I feel like that's kind of disrespectful to his husband.
Yeah, I can I can see what Shane probably means by it, but it wasn't edited very well, or
Yeah.
either edited poorly or he phrased it poorly. But I mean, it just goes to show that I can see his point at least, because people who are single just tend to give less of a fuck on these kind of things than people who have children back home and have to worry not only about how do I win the show, but also I'm a mom, or I mean, in Frank's case, he has a husband. People are more worried about like what are the people back home that I love gonna think about me on television versus this is a game, life goes on, who cares?
Yeah, I think that is 100% true. Frank doesn't have any kids,
Yeah,
so I don't think that he still gets messy, he still
yeah.
argues and
But I've
everything.
certainly seen that in both on the challenge, but also in other shows, like people will who do have kids will be stressed out about I need to be different than I would be because I have kids.
Yeah, and I feel
Especially, and maybe less so on this show, because the challenge, for lack of a better term, is a job for these people and they do it time and time again. But like, you get the opportunity to play Survivor once, the younger 20s and 30s super fans want to win. People with kids are like, or who are like school teachers are like, I can't lie on television, that makes me look unprofessional. And it's like, it's Survivor. It's not your life.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people, like you said, try to um like not like disappoint people or not people they don't want people to think like I'm a bad parent because I'm
Yeah,
doing this. But I feel like the way I see it is you get the chance to get away from your life to like kind of put a pause on having to parent and be a mom
exactly.
and you are there to make a show. And like I don't think I guess there's a big difference between being like a downright like nasty person
Yeah.
and just being like good for TV and like making a show and being dramatic. Like it would be like
And
I
on
would
that note, shout out to the other person who made a appearance from the reunion clip earlier in the season, in the episode,
who?
Amanda.
Oh, yeah. Um so like for me personally, like if I see like Frank getting nasty or whoever like getting loud and just being like I guess mean or whatever, I'm not gonna think of that person as a bad
Yeah,
person
absolutely.
in their life. But I feel like there is a fine line, like if you are like hating on somebody's like appearance
Yeah,
or if you say something that's like derogatory, like then I think is like I do think that you're a nasty
oh
person in
for
real
sure.
life.
And I would say that whether you're a parent or whether you're a 20-year-old
Single
college
or
kid, who
whatever.
cares?
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the elimination, we have a scratch off game where the players have to scratch the surface of a board with one coin each in order to reveal the puzzle and then or the answer key and then solve the puzzle. Question for you, because it's something I thought of instantly. Would it have possibly been a good strategy to just say, yeah, whatever, the challenge is called scratch off, I'm not going to scratch it at all? Because this puzzle looked pretty easy. It was just the season logo at the top and the cast photo on the bottom. You should be able to figure that out with just putting pieces together.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, honestly, I probably wouldn't even waste my time doing the scratch off because when you have one little coin and then that big of a scratch thing to
Yeah.
whatever, you can kind of, like you said, it's just
If
like a
it was
jigsaw
random
puzzle.
shapes in different locations or something, I would be like, yeah, you have to scratch it or there's no way to solve this. But that puzzle was a puzzle you should be able to do without a box.
Yeah, because I feel like if you're looking at the piece, you're like, oh, Fessie's head doesn't go on Amber's body. It
Yeah,
goes on, like there's like it's something that you can see if it fits or not.
yeah,
I don't know. I wonder if they just didn't expect that and
yeah,
because they didn't know. So like if you don't know, maybe you do think that there's a little bit more to it. And then once they realized, I feel like they were kind of just doing more of the puzzle.
yeah, I think so. They didn't scratch as much as they have in this sort of challenge in previous seasons.
Yeah. But Veronica and Katie did select Nani and Turbo to go
Yeah,
into elimination against Amber and Fessy. Um, And
So we have teams that could win the show in a endurance final going head to head.
Oh, absolutely. But we see Turbo from early era 4 kind of
Yeah.
just walk into this challenge, and he did shit later, but I like that little montage that they made of him just like running around with bricks everywhere. Like he literally turned into an animal.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, well, I guess both teams did.
And speaking of that, teams of the weekend, losing teams of the week is going to be pretty fun this week compared to any other episode we've ever done.
Yeah. Um,
So stay
but
tuned for that if you're still watching now.
Nani and Turbo did pull out the win.
Yep.
When they were showing it like before the ad or whatever, it looked really close, but then at the end you could tell Nani and Turbo
Yeah.
won a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny though because when I was watching it in the commercial break, so I was watching upstairs in the commercial break, I went downstairs to grab an iced tea, came back upstairs, and was, I guess, a little longer than I thought I was, and noticed that Turbo was throwing his technical equipment and gone full Turbo season 32 mode, to the point that I was like, shit, did Nani and Turbo just lose? And then it's like, no, they won. And then I'm like, okay, I need to go watch this again because
You're like, how did this happen?
how did Turbo go into the same that he is? I mean, every season, but being completely angry at everybody, saying that he's going to destroy them all when he won. He's still in the game.
Yeah, and we see
I thought
Nani.
Turbo lost and was about to get taken out by security.
But Nani had to kind of comfort him and
Yeah.
say, it's okay, you can take your anger out on me or whatever, but like don't do that type of
Yeah.
thing. And then he's like, okay, you're right. Like you're so good. They didn't even finish half of it. Which I thought was funny. But yeah, Amber and Fessy lost. I'm happy they were able to get past their rivalry.
Yeah.
And it looks like they said that they were ride or dies, and I feel like they're gonna be each other's number ones on the next season that we see both of them on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really happy with that too, especially coming from both. I know they were both on Big Brother. I think they played Big Brother together, if I heard correctly. They might have not. But they certainly knew each other coming into the world that is MTV, and then had that issue that broke the relationship down in 36. So they've been able to get beyond that, which is great. That being said, I'm also glad to see them go out at this point, not because I necessarily wanted them to go out, but from what we've seen so far, I'm really hoping that this is the season that Nani gets her first win.
Yeah.
That's so long overdue.
And I think you might think similar to me, but I don't know. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I am not a Big Brother fan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a hater, but
Yeah.
I don't like Big Brother. I
I
don't really like
just
a
don't
lot of
get it,
Brother
to be
players.
honest. That's my take. I've watched it a couple of times when I've heard that there's people coming from the challenge on or something, and I'm like, I just don't understand this. If you're a big fan, more power to you.
I I don't like Big Brother. There's a few exceptions to Big Brother players that I enjoy.
There's definitely Big Brother players I enjoy. Natalie, Annalise, um, Fessy, Amber coming over, but I don't get the concept of the show at all.
See, I did not like off topic traders. I did not like Danielle at
Yeah,
all.
neither did I.
Um, Dan, he pissed me off too.
Yeah,
Took down Parvati with him. Um, like Casey and Fessy when they were literally and Josh, Aylin,
yeah,
or I don't know what I was gonna say, but they were like mean to Amber. Like I don't know. I'm glad that he's being nice to her now, but I did not like when he like acted that way towards her. Um, but yeah. Um, but after the elimination, we see Shane get mad at Veronica because she told Frank what Shane had said, and Veronica says in her confessional that she sides with Frank's opinion, but she tells Shane that she will always choose him over Frank.
Yeah.
What did you think? Or
That was definitely going to be, I guess, as we get down, if this alliance moves forward in the game and doesn't start getting picked off again, going to be a point of contention. It's probably something, if they've put it in there, is important in the show, but we'll have to see how it plays out in the coming few weeks.
yeah, but at the end of the episode, we just kind of get Frank saying that if anybody thinks that they're in control of the game, they're wrong because he's the only person in control. So I don't know. I mean, he was almost voted into elimination. He was one vote away from being
Yeah.
voted in. So I don't know about that, but
Excuse me.
bless you.
Thanks.
Um, but yeah, for our team of the weeks and loser of the week, we have same answers but opposite.
We have never done this before. Usually we're trying like hard not to agree.
Yeah.
And this is, when I saw this, I just burst out laughing on the floor.
So my team of the week was Nani and Turbo because I think that they're working very well together. Like, I think Turbo has a lot of like Nani, we haven't seen her be that good with like puzzles or I mean she's not bad, but not that good. And we kind of saw Turbo being really good and doing very well. And I think that he not only wants to win because he wants to win with Nani and he wants to win
Yep.
for Nani. So I see a lot of like I feel like the other partners that Nani has had, like even Bananas, like yeah, he wanted to win, but it like I feel like Turbo's want to win is to get Nani her first win.
Bananas just wants to win so that he can tell CT I won.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
whatever. Um, and I think the way that he like kind of clocked in when he was in the elimination started literally turning into a menace. Like I have never seen a human being be able to do that. And it just shows like how much of a threat he is to win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you there, but like we said, we do have to disagree because we went in the complete opposite. So I guess it's just for different reasons, probably on both of them. I went with Veronica and Katie here. I never would have predicted that Veronica and Katie would have won a challenge. They did. Um, I never would have predicted that Veronica would have been able to sway the House towards voting in another strong team, and she got exactly what she wanted. And now we have a situation where Veronica is in the game longer than Fessy is. And that's, I can't discredit them, even if I don't necessarily think they're the team of the season. I think this was their episode.
Yeah,
And
and I
being able to politically like play Nicole the way that she did was so well done for a competition show that is straight out of reality television, which is exactly where this sort of behavior belongs, but should, I think, was so well done.
so I was kind of struggling when I picked my team of the week because team and loser, I was like, they could go for both.
Yeah.
Because like again, I see and I recognize like gameplay and I like seeing like strategic gameplay and how what she did was really impressive. And they were able to get exactly what they wanted. The reason that I did choose them for my loser of the week was because they went on a really big power trip.
Mm.
And even though you are in power now,
Yeah.
you have performed very poorly in every other challenge.
That's a good point.
So the thing to me is like I like her talking to Nicole and swaying her, wow, that was crazy. She got what she wanted, yes, but I'm like, Nicole and Melissa can beat you and Katie in anything.
And I
So
do see where you're coming from here as well too, because when I picked Veronica and Katie as my team of the week, I'm like, I very well could be picking them in the opposite category next week.
yeah, and even like this episode, I'm like, are they the team of the week or are they like?
Blowing up their
But
game.
the reason why I said that they or I didn't pick them for team of the week and I picked them for loser was because of like just because you won one daily that didn't require any athletic ability, that's not going to be like that the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
So I think it's not the smartest to kind of try to strong arm these teams and um like it ended up working for her because Nicole has no backbone. But like if somebody talked to me like that, I would do the opposite of what they're saying.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, I think it could potentially lead to their downfall with
Yep,
how much like the power trip that they had.
for sure. All right, getting into our loser team of the week.
Well, I just kind of
Oh,
explained why I had them as my loser, but
oh,
you can do yours.
fair enough. So you had your team of the week as Nani and Turbo. I want Nani and Turbo to win the game, full disclosure. But I had Nani and Turbo as my loser team of the week here. And the reason I did that was one, they were a team that now has gotten targeted, so they're becoming seen as a threat by the players that aren't in the alliance. And we also had Turbo go into his completely lost control mode at the end of this episode, and I don't think that that bodes well for Nani in the future if Turbo is gonna bring back the old Turbo that no one in Ride or Dies wanted in the house for more than half an hour. As much
Yeah,
as I think they are still one of the strongest teams, I don't think this was a great episode for them other than the fact that they won elimination.
yeah, and I think it's also because I agree with that. Because I feel like if I was in the house and somebody started throwing GoPros, I would be.
Yeah.
But when I'm in the comfort of my home watching it on TV on my couch, I love Turbo's outrages. I
Oh,
think it's
absolutely.
hilarious. But yeah, I agree with you that like as a house, like another cast member in the house, you probably don't like that's an easy excuse to vote somebody in, be like,
Yeah.
this guy's throwing shit around. Like, I don't want him in here.
And also, unlike, say, someone like an Amanda, Turbo can win the game. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's an easy way to just try to get rid of him.
But because you say it reminds you of season 32, Turbo from War of the Worlds. And I think that while that is a negative aspect of his behavior towards or because of how the cast sees him, he
Yep.
did win what is deemed the hardest final in challenge history, largely by pretty much everybody.
Yep.
He beat Theo, who was like fresh out of the Olympics at that point.
Yeah.
He beat Wes. So I mean, as much
Theo,
as
who's upcoming on Challenge 41.
oh
Theo, who's upcoming on the
yeah,
next
yeah,
season
yeah, yeah.
too. So he's still in the prime of his career.
Well, I was just saying because like that then it was like right when Theo was like fresh out of the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because we saw him like in that hall brawl and that was insane.
Hmm.
Obviously he's still in his prime, still performing very well, but I think like when you're just ran the Olympics, you're probably
Definitely.
um but I like so I agree with that part, but I also and the reason why I picked them for team of the week is that I'm like Turbo is here to win.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes for them with
Yeah.
that.
Well, we get a new episode in a couple days, and we'll be back the day after doing it again.
Yeah. I'm excited for the next episode. I feel like it's probably gonna be a really good one.
Yeah, it should be. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think we pretty much talked about everything.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see who was right in regards to which team of the week and which loser of the week is gonna move forward in that same trajectory or not. Because first time we're ever on completely different mindsets after an episode. and look forward to another episode. I guess if we record it Thursday, probably on Friday.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Because even though we were like on opposite sides, we kind of had some of the same thoughts,
Yeah.
but there's just other like you found this to be more like important to your ranking than like whatever.
Yep.
So I don't know. I really hope that we kind of, when we talk about our next week's team of the week or loser of the week, we either see one of us like keep one of them or like maybe switch our mind because of what happened. So that's gonna be really interesting to see.
Absolutely. Well, great episode, and see you guys again next time. Good night.
Bye.